Recently, I realized I never gave you all an actual idea of what my book is about, so I thought I would do that. And since it's the end of the month, at the end of this video, I'll also share an update on where I'm at with my novel. So first, this is a sapphic adult gothic fantasy book. So those are all of the topics that my book will include. There is a romance, however, it's not a huge part of the book, but it is an important part of the book. So I definitely don't want to label it as romantasy because I don't think that it's that. There isn't a strong romance thread that is throughout the entire novel, but romance is included and it's important. And that's what I'll say about that. It's an adult book because the main character, I haven't decided on an official age, but she's either going to be late 20s or early 30s. So it's definitely aimed at more of an older audience. It's not necessarily going to be written in a mature way where someone who's younger wouldn't be able to read it because it's too inappropriate. So it's not going to focus on that end of being adult, just mainly that the protagonist is older than your typical YA character. Also, I've looked a lot at the difference between YA writing and adult writing, and I think this book is definitely leaning more towards adult writing. Although, again, like I said, younger audiences can read it because it's not going to be inappropriate for a younger audience. At least I have no plans for it to be. And then Gothic. I wasn't planning on making this book have a Gothic vibe and aesthetic and feel to it until I accidentally started reading some Gothic novels recently. And after I read some of them, I realized that my novel has a lot in common with them. And then I looked up more about the Gothic genre, and it was funny how my novel ticked off a lot of the check boxes. And so I wanted to really lean into that Gothic vibe, and I'm really enjoying what I'm reading and what I'm writing now that I'm a bit clearer on the voice I want to have. However, I'm not going to really focus on updating the earlier parts of my novel to have a more Gothic feel to it until after I finish this draft and I've moved on to edits, which won't be for another few months. And it's fantasy because while there are Gothic books and novels that have vampires in them, I got the feeling that vampires were not a common occurrence in these worlds and that people were kind of fighting back against vampires or they weren't really well known. And that's not quite how my book is. The whole cast of characters in my book are vampires. It is a very vampire focused novel. Witches will be involved, not nearly as much as vampires. It might be a brief mention, but there is a whole magical world that my novel will have. So I feel like I need to specify that it's Gothic fantasy, not just a Gothic book. So yeah, sapphic, adult, Gothic fantasy is how I would label my book for now. So yeah, just to give a general overview now of the main plot of my book without giving too many details away. It starts off with a woman who is turned into a vampire against her will, and now she has to navigate all the challenges that it brings. And there's this main presence that's stopping her from achieving a goal that she has, but this main presence is also holding the key to her getting what she wants. So I want to show you my Pinterest board because I've been adding to my Pinterest board since the beginning of this novel. So the aesthetics have kind of changed, but I don't want to remove the old photos. So let's just hop into Pinterest and you'll see what the vibes I'm going for are. Okay, so let's take a look at my Pinterest board. We have a few different vibes going on because like I mentioned before, Gothic is a more new thing that I'm doing with my book that I'm falling in love with. But initially I had some more 90s vibes. So we can kind of see at the bottom, we have some images from 90s shows and just 90 aesthetics. And just because I'm switching to Gothic, I've been thinking I don't need to abandon my 90s idea because vampires can live for centuries. So she might end up in an old castle that has a more Gothic vibe and setting. However, it's still taking place in the 90s. I'm not 100% sure on the time period yet. I just know that it's going to be in the past. Technology isn't going to be a huge thing. No one's going to be whipping out cell phones or things like that. I don't even think there will be TVs involved. Even if I use 90s as a reference, I don't, the majority of the story is not going to really take place in a location where you're just watching TV and you have access to all this technology. It's still going to be modern enough where there's like running water and things like that. It's not going to be that old, but still not 100% sure on the decade. But as I got more and more into this Gothic idea, this is one of the things that really made me pick up a Gothic book, Carmilla, and it was this quote: "I have been in love with no one and never shall," she whispered, "unless it should be with you." I had no idea what Carmilla was about, but then I found this book, bought it, and fell in love with the overall idea. It's just a short novella, and I was like, yeah, this is the direction I want to go in. It's not going to be reminiscent of Carmilla, but I do want it to have these kind of Gothic, sapphic vibes without it being an extreme importance or an extreme part, but it's still important. Then we have some mirrors, broken mirrors. That's a really important motif in my book that I don't want to explain because I don't want to give too many things away. We've got this letter because early on there's a letter that is sent that will kind of kickstart some important events. And a lot of cups filled with liquid. You can interpret it as blood or wine. For me, it's both, and that also has significance. One of the main characters likes to drink a lot of wine for a reason. And just some more kind of images. Also, this really cool thing that I didn't know you could do was make collages. So this is just a bunch of scrap images that I put together that kind of show what I want my book to be about in a broad sense. Again, we have this letter, vampires, we see this kind of romance. My main character, I want her to be a Black woman. That's really important to me. The whole cast might not be Black. I haven't 100% decided, but I do know I want my main female character to be Black. Also, there's really not going to be many male characters involved, but so just my main character, I want her to be Black. There will be other Black people in this book as well, which is why I have a lot of images of Black vampires. I think this was from the newer version of Interview with a Vampire, which I have not seen yet, but I think I will because his image popped up quite a lot. But then I also just really wanted to make sure I got some up-to-date images of what people were dressing like in the 90s. So there's like there's a wide range of styles going on here. But yeah, this is my Pinterest board. I'm going to keep on adding to it. Might continue adding outfits from the 90s. I want to add more images of castles with a Gothic aesthetic because no matter what time period this book is taking place in, the location of the castle is going to be a very Gothic aesthetic. So yeah, this is just a sneak peek into the vibes that I'm going for with my book. I've been really enjoying just writing so much this month. So to give an update on where I'm at with writing, I'm a little past the midpoint. I've written about 32,000 words total. I think this first draft is going to be on the shorter side, but I'm not really focused on word count goal. I actually have the word count turned off while I'm doing my writing sprints for the day, and I turn it back on just to see how much I've written, but word count really isn't a priority. My goal is just to focus on being consistent with writing and writing every day, which I haven't been perfect with. Each week this month, I have missed maybe 1 or 2 writing days, especially as I just started working again the last 2 weeks. So balancing working and having the motivation and energy to write was something I was struggling with. But every time I tell myself I could be writing right now when I'm just sitting down watching TV and I've been there for more than an episode or two, then I realized I'm just not doing anything right now. I can use this time to actually work on my novel, and I'm just focused on writing for 20 minutes every day. And I've written more this month than I did last month, which was maybe less than 5,000 words last month, when I was more so focused on hitting a word count target every day. So far this month, I've written almost 10,000 words, just writing 20 minutes every day and not even being 100% consistent. So, quick thing, if you're struggling to write every day because you're not hitting your word count goal and that kind of stresses you out, try just switching to a time-based goal. Write for 20 minutes every day, and whether you write 50 words or 100 or 1,000, be happy that you just added more words to your draft. And that mindset has really helped me out. And if you have any questions, just leave them down below.